Well, it's been a couple of days now, half a week almost exactly, and the Trojan family is still reeling. We will talk a little bit about Notre Dame, but we want to look going forward. Is Riley going to be able to figure out how to fix this defense? It's year 4, and we're kind of seeing the same things we've seen earlier. So, leave it to you guys. Your calls coming up next. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to another Conquest Call-In Show. This one is a special edition, a Trojan Family Therapy session. With me on Wednesdays, as always, is Jamal Madni. For the next 30 to 60 minutes, we're going to be here with you guys, and we're going to kind of dissect what happened a little bit from the game, but we also want to talk more about going forward. There's a big game coming up in a little bit, another road game that we have to tackle. And we will talk about Nebraska. Nebraska's going all out on that one. But we will be here taking your calls. And the only thing we ask from you guys is if you can do us a favor, if you guys go ahead and hit that like button, it's the best way to let us know that you like the content. And also, it really helps to grow the show. It's free. It only takes a second. And I also want to say a special thank you to all the guys over there on Twitter that constantly are supporting us. Guys like Fight on Preston, Fight on Rusty, Gabe, Gil Marin, and the guys over on Light the Torch. If I forgot anyone, I'm really sorry. But Jamal, let's get into this defense. All right. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Tim. Great to see you. It's man, it's been 4 days since the Notre Dame game. Felt like 4 years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's with all the conversation, everything. I know you and Ryan Monday night. I did a video Monday as well, and but just great to be with you, of course. But wish it was under better circumstances.
Yeah, it was. It was rough. I guess that's really why we're going to spill it over to this week. We're going to do another just call-in show for you guys out there. Defensively, so the numbers aren't historically horrible like they were under Alex Grinch, but I would pose to you, Jamal, it sure looks like the issues that we had with Grinch were the explosive plays, the number of explosives given up constantly. And as a Trojan critic and fan sitting there and watching that game, it seemed like USC was great. So I think that Notre Dame was 3 of 11 on third down.
That's
correct. Problem was, as they were picking up 10, 15, 16, 25, 63 yards on these carries. And then the double whammy was at the end when you give a big special teams play and then you have the offense just sputter all the way, from the end of the third into the fourth quarter, just coming up empty on 4 straight possessions. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, no question about it, Tim. The third down conversion actually was very solid at 3 for 11, but you would never think of it because there were so many possessions in that game that never even got to third down, right? That's sort of the double-edged sword is when, to your point, when you're giving up these massive chunk plays and, you're in a situation where it's second and short, and they're just cranking yards out. I mean, 306 yards, Tim, on 7 yards per carry. I mean, 44 carries for 306 yards. It really looked like a bit of the Grinch day, sadly enough, because, you couple that with what we saw against Illinois, the script was very similar in a lot of ways. And I think, middle of that second quarter, we were fortunate to sort of be in the game. I think we would take 14-13 at the half, particularly when they were driving 14-10, it really looked like the game was going to get away a bit. But then we got that interception from Shelby. Carr made an absolute mess of it. And then we come down, Lane drops that touchdown right before the half. But you say, okay, even Steven, it's 14-13. And you thought that was going to carry some momentum over, similar to what we saw against Illinois at the end of the half. We thought we were going to carry that momentum over. And the defense comes in and just lays an egg that first drive in the third quarter. I mean, that was a 7.5 minute, just soul gut wrenching drive that, put the game back on Notre Dame's racket. And then ultimately you had the kickoff return and then the way they closed it. So it's very interesting here, Tim, the way this defense is getting moved at the line of scrimmage. We talked about it a bit at the start of the season. Just didn't feel like the pads were popping on the interior. The exception to the rule there was the Michigan game, but now reverting back to the tendencies from earlier. And I think the difference between the Grinch years and what we're seeing this season is it's improved. I think, Grinch, I mean, that was an inept defense. But let's not forget, we're in a different conference. Fewer possessions, greater, time per possession. It's a slower paced game than it was in the Pac-12. So you're not going to be giving up, 50 in the Big Ten unless something catastrophically is going wrong. So you have to sort of categorize the way the defense is playing, given the flow of the game and the style of the game in this conference. And you said it best, Tim, offline. Look, if we look at yards per play, that's the true metric. We're still sitting at 68th in the country in terms of yards per play at 5.5 yards per play. So that's the alarming piece. You can give up yards. When you're up big, you're going to give up yards, passing yards and whatnot. It's that yards per play metric is the true barometer, and that's where we need to see improvement.
Yeah, and it just playing assignment sound defense, filling those run fits just are a mess. Guys overplaying, guys not really trusting. I think Ryan did a good job, and this is what I was talking about at the game. It's like you have to be able to trust Ryan today on his show. He talked about you have your role on the defense,
right.
And then what happens is it's plays, big plays keep getting strung out, and then players say, "Oh shoot, I've got to go make a play," and then you don't stay in your gap, and then next thing you know, they're picking up 15, 20 yards where you were supposed to be. So, yeah, we'll get to that. Let's talk about some positives first,
sure,
and then we'll take some phone calls because I know the phone calls will not be positive. But I did want to hit, some, because there was some positive to take from this game.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. I think you said it earlier, yesterday or day before. You put out a video here on the channel, and you were talking about the fact that that even though USC has played, the way they did, they were able to maintain and be in this game, right?
No question.
It wasn't like they were blown out. As poorly as USC played in this game, giving up just, 9 explosive plays on the ground. They're overrun for over 10 yards, allowed them 15, 16 to 60 yards. USC was still in this game. And part of that was because CJ Carr, who has been playing well, he just lit up NC State. USC made him look like a freshman.
No question about it, Tim. Particularly early in that game, you could tell that, some of the coverages that he was seeing, particularly with some of the linebackers dropping back in coverage, it was confusing him. It was sort of a similar story early in that game with Underwood. And I think Notre Dame, sometimes they came out thinking, oh, everyone expects us to run. Let's kind of throw the ball to throw them off a little bit, and realize that USC was very prepared for that. And so I thought situationally early in the game, the team was quite good. And look, let's not forget here. I mean, this is a 27-24 ball game. SC was up 24-21 before that kick return, and then had the ball, right, Tim? I mean, there was opportunities there. Unfortunate interception from Mayava, but Notre Dame doesn't do anything with it. I think the defense should get a lot of credit there for not conceding that touchdown, forcing the field goal in a tough weather situation, and getting another opportunity. So the offense had their opportunities to try and pull this thing out in a shootout. But I thought early in the game, Carr looked really confused. I thought Shelby, that interception at the end of the half was phenomenal. And I thought they did just a tremendous job on that drive in particular. When you thought it was going to be 21-10, the way the two edges dove on first down, shut down Love. They stuffed him on the second play. And then Notre Dame didn't have the confidence. As crazy as it sounds, right? A team that ran for 306 yards didn't have the confidence to run the ball on 3rd and goal at the 2. They wanted to sort of motion out and make a throw. Carr made a mess of it, but that's a credit to the defense sort of standing up there. So there were moments here. There were pockets where you had hope. They just couldn't quite string multiple plays together. And I think it's a very good point about being situationally sound, because I think for as explosive and dynamic as our edges can be, they lose gap contained because they want to go make the spectacular play. Jakeem's still young. He wants to go make that spectacular play. Same thing with Boucard. So sometimes the best thing to do, as we've always said repeatedly on this show, is just to do your job and be situationally sound. I think they were able to get away with it, Tim, against Michigan. They could kind of be explosive because they just didn't have a respect for the passing game. And the linebackers could shoot the gaps. The line could just sort of attack the line of scrimmage in a way where they could just sort of pin their ears back every play and try and just sort of clog up the middle, because they knew they had that linebacker support. In a game like this, where you have to respect the passing game of Notre Dame, even though they didn't throw the ball down the field, It was just basic inside slants, basic curls, just to keep those linebackers honest. That's when you have to play more situationally sound football. You saw it against Illinois. You saw it against Notre Dame. And I think Nebraska is going to try and take that same page with Raiola and kind of keep him controlled in that intermediate passing game to just do enough to get their running game with Emmett Johnson going.
Yeah, they will be able to do that. The one, like we just, which one's not like the others. We named like 3 quarterbacks, and Bryce Underwood, which we all agree is a great talent and should be, a phenomenal quarterback at Michigan. He just wasn't there, and USC and the defense of Lynn were able to take advantage of that. And then Justice Haynes going out early, kind of allowed things to snowball for that offense. But not to take anything away from the defense, because Gabe's been saying it for a while now. The USC team is just, and I said it on the last show with Ryan, it's ridiculous the 2 different teams you see at home. At home, they look like world beaters. Like, think about last year. They should have beat Penn State. That was a much better Penn State team than this year's Penn State team. That was a really good Penn State team. USC should, if not for a couple of really weird calls, or maybe stepping up on one of those 4th down and long conversions on that last drive that they scored. I mean, things like that. USC, or an errant throw that sails right over top of Deuce Robinson, who's the tallest receiver out there. Otherwise just setting up for a long field goal. So USC at home is just brutal. And then they play lights out. The problem is you got to win a couple games on the road.
Yeah.
Winning at UCLA across town, really doesn't count, especially since the Bruins are down right now. And then having a win in Purdue, that's it. That's the only conference road games we have won since we joined the Big Ten. That's just not going to get it done.
No, Tim, it's not. And I know that we had some, and obviously we're one big LAFB family here. Ryan's my bro. I love him to death. We're all brothers here at LAFB, but I respectfully disagree with his take about, teams don't win on the road in college football anymore. I just don't think that's true. I mean, we saw, Indiana go into Oregon and win. We saw Georgia go into Tennessee and win. We saw Alabama go to Georgia and win. We saw Texas A&M go to Notre Dame and win. So the great teams know how to win on the road. It's the teams that aren't great that aren't winning on the road. And right now, USC is not a great team. And so we have to sort of get there, because now the path to the college football playoff leads through Eugene, Oregon. We have to win that game now if we want any chance at a playoff appearance. And that's going to be a tall order, but that's what's sort of faced in front of us. So, the idea of, hey, just win your games at home and be competitive in games where you're not favored. You know what recipe that is, Tim? That's the Penn State James Franklin recipe, where, and Coach Rowe used to tell me back in the day, he said, Madman, the last thing I want for USC is to become the Penn State of the West. So we have to overcome this. Can't win just the little games and the little games on the road and say, it's okay if we drop a couple big road games. That's how you become James Franklin and Penn State. And respectfully, the standard at USC is higher than that. Yeah.
And if you look at it, I mean, I'm not taking anything away. That performance and that last drive with Woody Marks and with Lemon, I'm not Lemon. Oh my gosh, how quickly you forget. Blanking out. Transfer to Penn State. It'll come back to me in a second. Hudson and Miller Moss down the stretch of that LSU game. But really, it's been a long time since LSU. That was the opening game last year, and that's really is that the signature win over the past 2 years? It's got to be. Got to be the biggest win since we joined the Big Ten, and it's not even a Big Ten opponent.
Right.
So I mean, I thought this could be that game, and this is a good. Don't fool yourself. This is a good Notre Dame team. This is a solid Notre Dame team, I mean, one of the better running teams I've really seen in quite a long time. But they were vulnerable.
Absolutely,
they made their mistakes. And so one thing I'm getting, it's going to overplay those. People are saying, well, the door was left open. SC made their fair share of mistakes as well, as we saw again down the stretch. It's just it seemed like USC just finds a way to shoot themselves in the foot down the stretch. In the past, it's been where the defense can't get a stop. But this time it just seemed like the defense was getting some stops in the second half, allowing a chance for the SC to answer, get back in this game. And they did. And then the special teams let them down.
Yeah,
know?
no, it was tough, Tim, and I'll tell you, we had some good fortune as well. If you recall, even after up 24-21, obviously everyone remembers the kickoff return, but go back to the Mayava interception, right at 27-24. You really felt at that point the game had swung to Notre Dame, and you were like, oh boy, this thing could be one-way traffic the other way. Remember what happened on that drive? Notre Dame had a 3rd and 4 at the SC 13-yard line. Faison was wide open at the 6, and he just dropped it. That was headed for 1st and goal at the 6.
So
sort of
Jacoby.
untouched. He dropped it, and then Notre Dame botches the field goal there, 31-yarder. And so you had the opportunity then to kind of come back and make it happen. But Tim, I'll be honest with you, this was the first time this season that Lincoln Riley flinched and look like 2023 and 2024 Lincoln Riley a little bit. And we've talked about it so much about last year in particular, how he would get spooked on the road. If there was 1 or 2 consecutive run plays that got stuffed, he would start throwing 8, 10, 11, 12, 14 times in a row, become very one-dimensional. Back then was the Miller Moss days. You didn't have as mobile a quarterback, and you were a sitting duck back there. He's done so well this season to stay balanced, right? And we've sort of complimented him and fairly and in a really robust way because he stayed balanced. This was the first game he got spooked, and he got spooked twice, right? I mean, he got spooked on the trick play with Lemon, where after you get him on a huge explosive, you're only down 27-24. Play it straight up. What are you doing in terms of a trick play there? Yep. I mean, it's in the rain. You're moving the ball really well. Hines has it going. Lane has it going. Lemon has it going. You got 3 receivers that have it going. You can't really run the ball, but keep them honest. You got 3 wide receivers out there, and they can't cover all 3. The fact that you sort of panicked and went to that trick play showed me he got spooked. And then again, the following possession there, it's been discussed ad nauseum. That 4th and inches, you got a 6'4" quarterback. You're running a long, elongated boot. You're trying to get it to the tight end. I mean, quarterback sneak there is going to get you 5 inches. So this was the first game where 2025 Lincoln Riley flinched and he got spooked, and he looked like 23 and 24 Lincoln Riley, Tim. So I think this is also going to be, as much as this is about the defense soul searching, this is also going to be about Lincoln Riley kind of getting back to being the 2025 version of how he's called plays and really integrated himself into the Big Ten versus the 23 and 24 version of Lincoln Riley. So I think that's going to be the fascinating part. The benefit, of course, is that now USC is on a bye again, right? I mean, we had the benefit of the bye going into the Michigan game. Now we get another bye here to get ready for Nebraska. And
they did come out of that bye playing well, healthier. Yep. And this is a chance. Again, sorry, my bad. I said it. I'm so sorry. It was my fault. I said it. I wanted to focus on the positive really quick. So let's hit a couple. We kind of went sideways there. So the one positive is that, is as bad as SC played, this is a good Notre Dame team on the road in South Bend, where USC, I think it was on the Trojans live show. I think it was Jordan Moore said, it put it in perspective. USC's only won in South Bend 14 times, in 96 years. So you figure that's 14 out of 50-ish games, right? Yeah. So I mean, it's not like rolling into South Bend and winning. This weird stuff is always had. Even that 2005 team had issues with a pretty good Notre Dame team. Yeah. But I mean, even they had a struggle to scrape out of there and get a win. So that is a little bit of positive news. And then the other piece of positive news that I want to talk about is Ryan Sayeri. Mm-hmm. This kid is just nailing him. Just knocking them down, and I'm glad, because last year the kicking was a bit helter-skelter, and I think in close games on the road, if we want to win them, like in this game, really, he came up, and when his number was called, he did his job. And so going into Autzen, going into Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, these are the kind of moments you're going to need, and I think Ryan Sayeri is as close to nails as we've had in a while.
No question, Tim. Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, you look back to that kick against Michigan back at home, the 54-yarder, and he didn't even kick it cleanly. He was so angry about that, and it cleared the uprights by 5-6 yards. And he's hitting the ball so cleanly right now. His one miss against Purdue was, beautifully struck ball, just hit the post, just went a little wide there on him. So I think he's doing a phenomenal job. And this is the type of kicker that you need to be able to pull one of these road games out late in the season. And I, not to sort of swing back to the negative, Tim, by any stretch of the imagination, but that's why it's such a killer decision by Lincoln Riley to go with that lemon trick play, because you're already at the Notre Dame 37. Granted, it's tough weather conditions, but a kicker who's super hot, it's a 54-yarder at that point to tie the game, mind you. I mean, all you need is 5-7 more yards, and you're feeling really good about Sayeri's chances to at least tie the game. So that's again why that decision was just so perplexing. And pressure does interesting things, to people in different situations. But nevertheless, Sayeri's doing a phenomenal job. And I think there's going to be one game outside of the Oregon game, Tim, that I think is going to get tricky. And I don't know which one it'll be. It might be at Nebraska, maybe home for Iowa. Dare I say the Victory Bell game? I mean, one of these games I think is going to get tricky in an unforeseen way. And I think Sayeri is going to play a very critical role there, because if we take a step back, look, I think the one game this team is going to be in an underdog situation the rest of the way is going to be at Oregon. Let's say that game doesn't go our way. I think if you finish 9-3 in the regular season, you're not ecstatic, but you still feel like things are moving in the right direction. I think you walk away from a 9-3, 7-2 season saying it wasn't great, but things are moving in the right direction. There's momentum here. I think there is a cataclysmic difference in the regular season with USC between going 8-4 and 9-3 with this schedule. I think 8-4 feels like a completely lost season. I don't know how you feel about it, Tim, versus 9-3. I think it's a huge difference. So I think that's why this is going to be really, really significant. And obviously, if you go 10-2 and upset Oregon, that's a whole different ballgame. So this 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 scenario, wide range of emotions. But for me, given the schedule and what's left, 8-4 would just feel like a totally catastrophic season in my mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a massive difference between 9-3 and 8-4. I said 10-2 because really the thing was screaming to everyone. 9-3 just seemed like the most logical, right?
Yeah.
Hard sledding, no wins in 14 years in both Autzen and South Bend. So those two were going to be difficult. You knew that. And then traveling to Nebraska, traveling to Illinois, and then having Iowa at home. These are games that, like you said, they can go a lot of different ways. Like we knew the first four were going to be warm up, ramp up games, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, dropping really, then that is your Penn State scenario. That is your, you basically beat everyone you should have beat, and you lost to teams that you should have lost to.
And if you recall, Tim, you remember at the start of the season, we said, look, what are our picks? I had it 9-3, just off of you guys. And I said it was at Illinois, at, Notre Dame, at Oregon was where I thought the 3 losses would be. If that holds, again, you're still feeling like, okay, there's that next step now you got to make to be able to win these big games on the road. But at least you won the games you were supposed to win, and you got a Michigan game. You kind of got that Big Ten monkey off your back to a certain extent in terms of a ranked game. But man, 8-4, Tim, that means you're going to lose to like Nebraska or Iowa or Northwestern or UCLA. That is a whole different ball of wax at that point.
Having so I thought we would, and I'll still stand by what I said. I think if we had had Kamari Ramsey in that game, I think he's the difference in that game. So I still stand by my 10-2. I mean, Illinois was a great team. It's a great call. You nailed it. I thought the 2 losses would be, at Autzen, at South Bend. But if we end up dropping that game, that's the game to me is a game that, was going to be close, but I thought USC talent wise, USC, again, outside of maybe Notre Dame and Oregon. I mean, do you think that do you think that on paper, I'm not saying it, but on paper, it looks like that USC should have equal talent or more talent than everyone else that they're going to play on the schedule. So it's just a bit hard to imagine SC dropping 4 games, because then that's coaching.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay positive because we're guaranteed these phone calls. By the way, guys, 888-997-4539. Give us a call, 888-99-RILEY. We will talk about the coaching, because I think we have to start talking about defensive coaching. We canonized all these saints, and these in the preseason, like they were going to be the greatest, the dream team of defensive recruiting. But when you're, would you say 62nd, 63rd yards per play, and that is not getting it done, especially in the Big Ten, which I've said for years is it's just naturally deflated, just simply because of the offenses are not as sophisticated as you find in the old Pac-12, and some of the passing, it's just 3 yards and a cloud of dust in the Big Ten, really a lot of it, and really good defense, but a lot of running. And very few possessions. Therefore, your defensive numbers are going to be lower, which is also, remember this is a game of attrition. I know you guys get tired of me saying that, but the more reps these guys have to take, the more injury, the more wear and tear, the more dinged up they'll be playing. So that's another aspect that you have to remember as far as defense is concerned. But go back to the pause really fast. I like Tanook Hines. Tanook Hines stepped up. He's been playing. The way that Moore was blanketing Makai Lemon, you needed somebody to step up. That was the tight ends, who was the other bonus. They get dinged though because they're blocking. I don't know if you rewatched the game at all, but their blocking was absolutely atrocious. But as far as catching the ball, that Lake McCree catch in the corner Lake keeps just showing just his elite ball skills. When the ball's in the air, Lake McCree, and he's got some shake to him too. He showed that as well. So your thoughts on Tanook Hines and the tight ends?
Oh yeah, I thought the two most dynamic plays of the game for USC was on the first possession, the touchdown to McCree. That was, great ball by Mayava too. High points the ball only where his guy can get it, only where McCree can get it. And I'll be honest with you, Timbo, I didn't think McCree had that hop in him, that catch radius in him after all the knee injuries and everything that he's been through. That was a phenomenal effort there. Got the 1 foot in as well. Yeah. On the road with this weather. To really sort of solidify things at the beginning was sensational. And then Hines, there was one play there where it was more of a bust that Notre Dame had. They weren't even ready for the play, but man, how good, Tim, on that. I believe it was the second possession of the game. Maybe it was the third. My memory is sort of evading me right now. But when Mayava sort of reverse rolls out to the weak side, and he just kind of throws it to the sideline, you think he's throwing it away. And out of nowhere, Hines comes and makes that grab. And, that was absolutely phenomenal. So Hines is, when Tanook Hines is your number 3 receiver, think about that for a second. Tanook Hines is going to be matched up with corner number 3 here the rest of the way. That's an absolute mismatch every single time. So his emergence, his evolution is going to be absolutely critical because, look, this guy's going to most likely step into that wide receiver 1 role next year. So this is the perfect education for all of that. And, when you think about a Tanook Hines, Walker Lyons did a great job, had a really nice catch there, showed some wiggle to him as well. He's going to be tight end 1 next year.
Muscle. So, yeah.
You're feeling really good about this skill room moving forward in terms of growing. But that's never really been a concern in the Riley era. But, that next lineage is coming, and they certainly did a great job. And I think as freshmen in the case of Lyons and Hines, to be able to make such an impact on the road against Notre Dame, it just gives you so much confidence the rest of the season and going into your sophomore year, where in these big games, you belong and you can play really well. So that was very exciting to see early in that game.
And the good news also is that we're not going to face another Leonard Moore.
Yeah,
okay?
That's right.
That dude was as advertised. Makai Lemon's special, and the way he was able to play. And there was a play I remember where there's a throw to Jacoby, and Jacoby goes up, makes a great play, high points like he normally does, and he comes out and just knocks it out and goes right off of Jacoby's face mask and bounces to the floor. Jacoby didn't seem like himself. We're staying positive. So that's going to wrap up the positive for me. Do you have any positives?
No, look, it's, I think we talked about the skill, folks. I thought Mayava for the first 2.5 quarters of that game, played really well. He had that one really bad interception. The second interception was, the game was already lost. He was just trying to force some stuff down the field. What else can you do in that situation? But hopefully he can kind of take that first half version. And I think hopefully he can learn a little bit where, he's had some ebbs and flows against Illinois. He's had some ebbs and flows against Notre Dame. He's had some ebbs and flows against Purdue. He's had these ebbs and flows on the road, particularly in that early third quarter. There's something where his play sort of dips early third. It could be completely coincidental, but maybe he's getting too much into his head at halftime, for instance, on the road. And so maybe there's something there where he can kind of build and grow on moving forward. We talked about the skill folks, and you sort of got to take the positive that, hey, you were in this game. If you can clean some things up, can you give yourself an opportunity now in that final test against Oregon? Because you're going to have to sort of raise that level.
Well, you gave me one more positive as we go into the negatives. One more positive is the fact that this is a makeshift line that we're looking at offensive line.
Absolutely. I mean, down two key starters. I mean, no question about it.
That we will be getting back soon, hopefully back for Nebraska. And one of the things I said for that 10-2 season to happen, Jamal, was that you're going to need some injury luck. And USC had a lot of injury luck last year on the offensive line, staying very healthy for the majority of the season. But yeah, I think people took the success of the Michigan game a little too much, thinking, oh, well, we don't need. Someone actually said, it's like, well, Elijah Page, is he going to start? It's like, if he's healthy, it's like, what do you mean? This guy is he still is by far our best offensive lineman. Having him out for these games has been brutal. But getting him back is going to be substantial. That's going to allow, and I'm not here. Tobias kind of struggled a little bit at left tackle. It's going to allow him to move back to the guard position, and they can start. I think you'll see a huge step up again, though, in the pass protection, and just when everyone gets back into their natural positions. I think that'd be big. So that's positive going forward. That's a little positive, which leads me to a little bit of negative. I'll hit that, guys. Again, this is a call-in show. We're gonna be here for a little bit longer, but I got some stuff, but I didn't plan on talking for. This is why I like the call-in show, because I don't have to sit here and talk for an hour straight. So if you guys want us to stay on longer, you might want to give us a call, because I think we might be heading out a little bit. Jaden, my thing on Jaden this year was I wanted to see some poise, and I tell you what, a lot of people are saying and giving a lot of props for that throw to Nook. There's not much difference between that. CJ Carr throw and you look anytime the quarterback, and I don't care how great you are at reading a defense, you turn your back to your back,
just flung it
and then throw off your back foot and float that thing the way he did. I don't know how in the hell he saw that the safety wasn't there. There's a good chance he might have been spinning and trying to throw that thing away. It was good that he was there. I saw a little bit of 2024 Jay. I've been the biggest Jaden honk this entire year, because I just seen the way this kid works. I love this kid as a Trojan. I want him to go to bat for USC all day long. He's become one of my favorite Trojans of all time. But the whole thing is when that pressure stepped up a little bit, I saw that poise drop and made me a bit nervous.
No, I think it's fair, Tim. And here's why I think what we saw here in this game. And I think we're trying to be, look, we can go into the abyss of the negative, but I think we're trying to sort of keep this thing above water a little bit with the fans. The thing with Jaden this year that has been so different is how quickly he's gotten the ball out. It's been, I would say 80% of the time, it's 1 to 2 read throws. And, his ultimate security blanket is Lemon. When he's in trouble, he's either going seam to the tight end or he's finding where number 6 is. The fact that Lemon was draped, he was wearing, the Notre Dame defenders for most of the game. I think that unnerved him, to be very honest with you, because for as great as Lane is, the Mayava-Lane connection is very much, if you notice, it's in lesser stress type of situations. Like if you look at the Lane receptions, a lot of Lane receptions from Mayava are on first down or on second down. It's when there's less stress on a drive where, you can go take a shot or you can sort of make a bigger play. You have more margin for error. When push comes to shove and it's 4th and 7 or it's 3rd and 11, he's going to Lemon every time. You even recall back at that Michigan State game, if you remember, when Michigan State was coming back, there was that 4th and 3. He didn't look off Lemon, and Lemon's so special, he was open. So I think the fact that Lemon struggled to get open earlier in the game, I think over the course of the game, that took a toll because, he started becoming now the 2024 version. And that 2024 version is someone who's really, really talented, but he doesn't really have a plan pre-snap. and he doesn't really, he's relying too much on improvisation, and you saw him sort of slip into that. So I think the key moving forward is going to be, in the event Lemon doesn't have his fastball because of the defense, it's going to be very rare because Lemon is that special, so you're not going to see it that much. Can he sort of develop that trust with one of these other guys, or can he just sort of trust his progressions to go to read 3, go to read 4, and then be able to make a play? So I think Lemon's inability to sort of just be dominant, I think had an impact on him. That first interception, Tim, was a really poor throw. That was a really poor throw. And we had talked about it on the pregame show, if you recall, when we said, look, with the weather, some of these up the middle throws, the ball's wet. Sometimes you don't have a zip on it. The wind will play a role. That one just sort of fell in the breadbasket. And then after he made that throw, I think both he and Lincoln got a little spooked, and it sort of affected them the rest of the way.
Yeah, wet ball across the middle. It didn't look like he definitely did not look like he got stepped into that and threw that the way you'd want to throw it. I think, again, that has a little to do with the pass rush he was under. Not on that particular play. I just think that, they were a bit in his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was rough. And then I'm getting a lot of people that are constantly DMing me and replying about the holding. You guys, yes, there's holding in the Big Ten, and apparently, ACC refs same way in South Bend. There were some egregious holding penalties. But here's the thing: we can complain about it all we want, but Rob Ryan, and Coach Henney and Coach Nua, they're gonna need to tell these guys, hey, look, they're gonna hold you, and then you got to work on the technique to get loose. It's just you got to get off those blocks, those holds, whatever the hell's happening, because guys are getting locked up, and that's how you saw the majority. If the guys were, if it wasn't the fact that they run themselves out of the play or they were not in their gap, it was the fact they could not get off simple blocks. And listen, that's going to happen in Lincoln as well. That's going to happen up in Eugene as well. These are both two talented running teams with big lines. And if you can't get off those blocks, it's going to be a long running day again for USC.
No question about it, Tim. And, it all comes down to sort of the point of attack, right at the snap. How do you sort of anticipate those first few milliseconds right off the snap? But I'll say one thing, Tim. As a fan base, we got to stop the whining. There's been a lot of whining this year, between us and our viewers right now, a ton of whining about the holding, and a ton of whining about the AP poll, and a ton of whining about the food poisoning against Illinois. Like, it's always, we're always whining about something, about why this is why we didn't win. And the world is out to get us, and the conference is out to get us. And, we got to overcome that. You got to, winning cures all of that, and you got to show up and win in these big games. Guess what? You win in Eugene, the AP poll is going to take care of itself. You sort of, you take care of your business, all of a sudden the holding isn't going to matter as much. And so, there's been such a narrative over the course of these last few weeks. I don't know if you're feeling it as well. I'm sure you are, but just there's all this excuse culture. We got to get over it here. This is year 4 of Lincoln Riley. He's got a great staff now. He's got, the talent pipeline now. We got to man up. We got to own up, and we got to kind of stare the bully in the face and get one of these big games on the road.
And with all of everything, I hear you. So Madman's not saying that these aren't legitimate gripes, because they are. I mean,
totally.
Stuff happens. I think the message that we're trying to say is that, all teams go through this crap.
Absolutely.
Unless you're Ohio State or Michigan, then you get every call. But if you're any other school, you're gonna have this stuff happening to you. And so, that's why I'm really not even leaning into the injuries, because we've had some pretty significant injuries that have shaped probably the win and loss column at USC. There's no doubt about that. But you know what? So does every team. I bet you Michigan wanted Justin Haynes for 3/4 of that game that they didn't have. I mean, so this stuff does happen, and legitimate. We should be upset. But guess what? Jamal? We got a phone call.
Oh,
caller, hi. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Tim. Hey, man, Dale from the Bay.
Listen, we got back-to-back. Jamal, Dale has been in our chat and USC chats around the world for ages, and this loss got him off the sidelines, and hopefully he's here to stay. Dale, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, I'm usually just in chat, but yeah, I've gotten a little bit of fire up my ass because of this last the Illinois performance, and just kind of like what you guys are saying, the road performance. But the reason why I was calling tonight was I was thinking, right before I joined your show, I was actually listening to Anton Lynn's interview today for the practice. They were interviewing me at practice, and somebody was asking him about just basically the game plan. I think, and basically that's what I took the question as. And Anton Lynn's response was basically like, it wasn't. I don't even remember what he said, but it really didn't answer the question. He just said they just did what was best, like what they thought was best. You know what it was actually? It was that why didn't you stop a run against Michigan? Why didn't you do that this game, right? And he said we thought that this game plan was the best for this game. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because we have one of the best offenses in college football, if not the best, right? In most of the stats. And everybody knows that Lincoln Riley, has a great passing attack with Mayaba and all of that. So, sometimes I go and I listen to, I went to listen to some of the Notre Dame fans, some of their podcasts and things. I'll say the same thing. We're going to run the ball. We're going to keep the ball away. We're going to run out the clock, not have as many possessions, keep the ball away, and they're not going to be able to stop the run. And so I don't really, I was listening after the Notre Dame game. I was actually really pissed, and I was listening. I usually don't listen to ESPN radio, but I was listening in there. And Stu Craven, he basically just said, I don't know why they didn't just stack the box, because I'm not going to let Jeremiah Love beat me. I'm not going to let the Heisman winner beat me. I'm going to make the quarterback, the redshirt freshman quarterback, beat me. And so I just wanted to know your guys' thoughts on that. I mean, if we're all in agreement, I guess, that it was just a bad game plan, or not, or the adjustments were made, or I was wondering what you guys thought about.
People say that no adjustment. We all know that's not true. They were not They weren't that effective. They were slightly effective, actually. You didn't see they were still gashing us for 10, 15, but they weren't hitting for 30 and 60 anymore in the second half. So I'm sure. Listen, those guys got. People don't realize this. Everyone thinks Riley's laid back. He behind the scenes. Riley is not laid back, guys. He's not laid back. He probably ripped them a new one. I'm sure. Can you imagine? By the way, Jamal, do you have any idea? Can you imagine Dale having to go back there and talk to Rob Ryan about the fact you can't stay in your run fit? He must have been. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall to hear him talking to his linebackers. But the short story is one, this isn't Michigan. And as we said, we were effective, because that's not a very good Michigan team. It's not. They're not in the same ballpark. Notre Dame would destroy that Michigan team. It would not even be close. And that's one thing. The run games, you can't even compare the two guys running the ball for the backups they have at Michigan. It's just not even in the same ballpark. USC's offense is one of the best offenses when it's healthy. But remember, we're down our starting center, we're down our starting left tackle. And then we have to move in, replace a guard that moves over to left tackle. Micah Beduelos is playing excellent as always when he comes in, he's called on. But then you're also missing RB1 and RB2. It's a reason why Jamal talked about it on his video yesterday. We went interception, fumble, downs, and then interception at the end of the game. I mean, the defense and look. Notre Dame is well coached. I mean, extremely well coached. And you saw that game. And that was the difference in the game, was the fact that they were healthier than us and they performed. And when you have if your offense is relying on throwing the ball, which USC was, because we were running the ball for, I think it was 2.9 yards, but sack adjusted, it was like 3.2. 3.2 yards a carry is not going to get it done. And and the thing is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jamal, but he didn't really abandon the run until you had to. And basically you were down 2 scores and you had to. So Riley stayed with it all. It's just, again, you're down 2 running backs, you're down 2 starting linemen, and you shuffle your line around. That's what we saw. We saw them make adjustments. They came out of the half scripted, field goal, touchdown, and then it all kind of went south from there.
Yeah, and I think, Dale, the thing I would add is to your point about, why was this team so good against Michigan defensively, and we didn't see it against Notre Dame, and it was a similar story against Illinois. Look, I think Illinois and Notre Dame did some very basic things pre-snap. I mean, they were just sort of looking at the box and they were saying, where are the linebackers? Do I have a light box or do I have a heavy box? And if they had a light box, it was pound with Love and Price. And if they had a heavy box, they check into kind of that quick inside slant 8 yards, inside curl 8 yards. They had that play the whole night. And so they were just basically looking at the box and looking at the numbers. And if they were +1, they were going to run it. And if they were even or -1, they were going to throw it on that inside slant. Notre Dame didn't throw a deep ball really the whole game. Same thing kind of with Illinois, right? I mean, you think about that late big play again that Illinois had before they had that fumble in the fourth quarter. That was an inside curl that, we took a bad angle on and it became 45 yards after the catch. It's the same thing. Everyone's just playing the +1 game in the box. The difference is with Michigan, to Tim's point, you're dealing with the freshman quarterback number 1. You're dealing with a backup running back number 2. They don't have quite the depth of talent right now. They're sort of rebuilding after the national championship. But more than anything else, it's Michigan's stubbornness. Michigan doesn't care about the +1, -1 situation in the box. Their mentality is more of like a boxing mentality. Like, we don't care. We'll take the 2 yards and a pile of dust. We'll take the no gains. And they're trying to get the game into the fourth quarter where eventually they'll pop one because you're sort of worn down. Now, the only way that philosophy works is if you stay close enough in the game going to the fourth quarter. The problem was we stretch it out 2-3 possessions. You can't do that. So this has more to do with Michigan's approach and how they see the box versus these other two teams. And I guarantee you, Nebraska's not going to be as stubborn as Michigan. Oregon's certainly not going to be as stubborn as Michigan. So tactically, we're going to have to fix some things schematically.
And Jordan Faison is a really good receiver.
Absolutely.
USC held Notre Dame to one explosive that just barely made it to explosive 15-yard reception, exactly 15 yards. So it goes to what you're saying, Jamal. And that's offense 101, Dale. You look at that box, and that's why people used to freak out last year about, we're not running enough. We're not running enough. But you don't run into a heavy box. You go to the line, you look at what you got, and then you call your play. I mean, that's what you see with those checks. But Dale, any final thoughts? Because we're gonna move on. But good point. I mean, it's like this is.
Actually, that makes sense. No, I appreciate you guys answering that, because I really didn't know, and all those points actually. The only other thing I was wondering before I take off is I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about. I don't know if you've already spoken about this, but I don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction about Rob Ryan, but obviously the linebacker play is not what it was last season, right? And so I don't know if that's because just the players, or maybe we should have recruited better this past, through the transfer portal or whatever. But maybe your thoughts on Rob Ryan, and because I feel like we're missing Matt Entz.
Jamal, I don't know about you, but I mean, I was excited. I was super excited about that hire. We lost Matt Entz, who was a good linebacker coach, but I was really excited about bringing in Rob Ryan.
Absolutely, me too.
And all year long, I've been giving the excuse that, hey, look, young linebackers, they're going to improve. They're going to improve. Well, Jamal, here's what I hand over to you. I haven't seen improvement.
Yeah. No, it's Dale. It's a great question. And, again, thanks so much for all your support and engagement. First of all, we really appreciate it and hope we see more of it. So very grateful to you. I think in terms of the linebacker situation, it's a little bit of everything. I think one is we came in with a little bit of a lack of depth. Number two is, Stevens was still young. He sort of broke out his first year. We were expecting that jump, and sometimes that learning curve is a little bit slower. And then I think number three, and this is a point that oftentimes isn't appreciated enough, this is why it's so hard to jump from the NFL to college and from college to the NFL, vice versa, from a position coach standpoint, because Rob Ryan has been in the NFL so long, he expects a certain level of talent, and then he's sort of approaching everything when it comes to scheme, technique, weight room, all that stuff. Where in a college mindset, you have to sort of appreciate the development a little bit more. Like, these kids are not NFL players just yet. Yeah. They're learning. And so your coaching has to accommodate for that learning. I think Rob Ryan has come in and said, well, I got 3, NFL quality linebackers, so I'm going to treat them like that. And that always doesn't work. And I think that's what you're seeing. And that's why it's very hard when you spent 10, 15, 20 years in the NFL to come back to college. more often than not, 7 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, that doesn't work out.
Yeah, you're not going to counsel like a third-year intern in a law firm the same way you're going to talk to like a law student, right? And I think that's what happens. I think that when you're used to expecting these kids to come with a certain skill set, a certain understanding of not just playing the position, but scheme, etc., the bigger picture. I think you're right. I think that's a very astute point that you have to dial it back for them and have them. But I mean, I don't know what it is. There is a missing piece there. That's a very valid point, and it is still a very valid point that these guys are young and inexperienced. They really are, and I think the talent's there, but I need them to show it. Like they flash it, but like Riley says, like I say almost every 3 weeks, there's being good and great is great. You don't get your bad plays don't hurt you.
Right.
It just doesn't. Everyone's going to make a great flashy play once in a while, but there were plays that the linebackers left on the field yesterday that cost SC tons of yards. Not just the linebackers. There were the ends were in there too. Corner on a couple plays just was completely out of position. But in general, the linebackers, they're too talented. And Rob Ryan is a good coach. That's a great mystery. That's what everyone's trying to figure out. That's a head scratcher. What is going on in the linebacker room? Because I think Gabe did a great job in his latest video talking about how important, and you could probably speak this a little bit yourself, Jamal, how important those linebackers are stepping up and making the plays are to the Danton Lynn defense.
No question about it. I mean, the linebackers are so critical, Tim and Dale, to what he wants to do because, it's a zone shell behind the backers. And his whole defensive concept is basically, how do I disguise pressure? And you're going to disguise pressure through the linebackers. You're going to send more often than not one of these linebackers on some disguised pressure. It's either going to be a stunt, edge blitz. You're going to show kind of different things. And then you're going to have sort of plus one, in the intermediate to longer place in the field. And that's how, when Danton Lynn's defense is really humming, that's really what he's got. Now, what he had at UCLA that one year, where they made the jump is Leatu Latu was an absolute stuff. I mean, top 15 pick in the NFL. He had him as sort of his ultimate chess piece. He doesn't have that level of talent with any one player. So he's trying to figure out how to sort of stunt things from a linebacker perspective. But the combination of Lynn relying on the linebackers as sort of the complex linchpins of his scheme, coupled with the fact that Rob Ryan maybe doesn't know how to coach college kids after being so far removed over the last 15 or 20 years. I think that tension is sort of coming together right now and why we're not seeing the jumps in performance.
And then Trojan fans, if you're not too familiar with Leatu Latu, this absolute stud from UCLA a couple years back, think Tuli Tuipulotu and how disruptive he was in the backfield as far as production-wise. They played a slightly different position, but I mean, just that level of dominance and how much that can really help to mask, should I say, some inconsistencies in the rest of the roster. We'll say it that way. But listen, Dale, awesome call.
Yeah,
thank you, Dale.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. I love the show, man. Appreciate you guys. Fight on.
Fine. Appreciate you calling. Appreciate all you guys. Hey, listen, if you're still out there, 60 of you, which is nice to see, go ahead and give us a like. Hit that like. It really, I'm just telling you, it motivates us to do more of these shows, and it definitely helps out the channel. So thank you guys for being here. We have one more call, and then we'll get to you, Joey, okay? Give me 1 second. Oh, I know this caller. This is Will ND, my Will, our local. I got to see Will at the game on Saturday. Will, longtime Notre Dame fan, and used to call me all the time on the old channel. Will, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm not here to brag.
You better not. I got my finger right on the button, Will. Will, I got my finger 1 inch from this hang up button. No, I was kidding.
I mean, I think I see a lot of progress from definitely from last year. But the one thing that Riley needs to do just down the stretch, especially in that Nebraska game, is just not get cute on the 4th and short. I mean, just give it to King Miller and pick up the first down. And I think you guys should beat Nebraska. I mean, I'm not at them by what I saw in that Minnesota or that Michigan game, and I don't think Raiola's very good. I mean, I would pick CJ over him all day, even though CJ didn't do his best, but I should be able to handle Raiola and handle Nebraska.
So you guys rushed on. Well, you guys really had your way running the ball against USC. What do you? Did you see anything different that you've seen? That USC wasn't doing that you saw maybe other teams that had success throughout the year to, because you can't stop your run game. I know that, right? You just hope to contain them. But was there something you've seen this season that maybe was just missing besides the fact that we weren't in our gaps?
I mean, just a strong performance by the O-line for the Irish. I mean, maybe the USC's D-line just didn't have their best game, but just they were able to just create the bigger gaps, but also the linebackers too. But I just think our O-line just had their best game of the year.
And you guys were down a couple of guys, and then you lost. Did your guard come back? Who's 74, right? He went down during the game. Did he come in later? Did he get back in or no?
He played through the injury, but he will be out probably until the playoffs if we make the playoffs.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw he was out. I didn't know if he'd come back in the game or not. So sometimes when you're shooting down a 200 millimeter lens, you don't really get the whole scope of the game.
Look at Tim with the low key flex over there, the Timbo slice flex. I love it.
No, I'm making up for my incompetence. You kidding me? That's me. That's me hiding behind the fact that I didn't know that guard came back into the game after he
not at all. No, but it's a really great point. I think. And look, King had his share of kind of no gains and losses, of yardage. So 4th and inches to kind of go back and hand it off. There's some risk there as well, frankly, the way things were going. But, that's one where you just got to QB sneak it, I think Rusty said it best on Twitter. How do you not QB sneak 4th and inches on the 20th anniversary of the Bush push, So I think that should have been sort of a no-brainer, a QB sneak. But to your point, listen, Nebraska's not a very good football team. This is a very inflated 5-2. They got 2 wins against non-Power 4 competition. They got absolutely trucked by Minnesota. I mean, 9 sacks Minnesota had, 24-6 beatdown. Michigan beat them down too. That score was not indicative of how in control Michigan was in that game. And when you look at Nebraska's 2 victories in the conference, 38-27 victory over Michigan State. They had 261 total yards in that game. Michigan State had 3 turnovers, and the game kind of got away early and just didn't have enough explosiveness to really make it a game. That was a very ugly, uneven performance there. And then when you look at the road win against Maryland, Raiola had 3 interceptions in that game. They were lucky to get out of there as well. So this is a very average Nebraska team with a subpar offensive line right now, particularly on both tackles. And so this is a game that USC, walks in there with superior talent and needs to win. I think we shouldn't have got, we've gotten really, really low after Illinois. Part of it is, how that game went. We got really, really high after Michigan with how that game went. Now we're really, really low now. After losing to you guys, I think there needs to be a little bit more of an even keel of where we're going. But I'll tell you, it's one thing to lose to Notre Dame. It's one thing to lose to Illinois kind of on the road. Losing to this Nebraska team, that is going to be an unacceptable loss for USC on the road, given the roster and given what we've seen. And I totally agree with you. Raiola, we've been waiting 1.5 years for Raiola. He's going to need to play the game of his career in 2 weeks in Lincoln, because the version of Raiola right now, coupled with what they have on both of those tackles, I don't see it.
You heard it for your first. The jinx was just put in by Jamal. Dylan Raiola is going to have his career game in a couple of weeks. No, I mean, yeah, I haven't seen it, which I'm not going to say anything yet. Really, I'm not, because again, I saw this game playing out differently than it did. I honestly thought, Will, that we were going to be able to bottle up CJ Carr, which I think they did. And I thought you guys were going to get yours, but I just did not see the level of explosives. So you guys had 9 rushes for over 10 yards in that game. And there's just you're probably not going to win a game if you can't run the ball. You run for 62 or 63, whatever it was, and the other team runs for 320 plus. There's not many times and it was just strange though, is because if SC had not fallen on the sword for the 4th quarter, they might have been in that game. But any other thoughts for us, Will? By the way, it was really nice. So I've known Will now for 3 or 4 years doing shows like this.
Fantastic.
And I just had the opportunity to meet him, Will, and just one of the nicest guys in the world, and I appreciate you calling in.
I think that Eugene, if it's not rainy, I think you guys at least have a game in Eugene. I think you will at least have a chance to win in the fourth. It's a prediction, but I'm not sold on them after getting bullied by IU.
I think USC has to be.
Wanted to call it after beating you in person.
No, I appreciate that. I know that's kind of fan you are, Will. Again, Will's the exception to the Notre Dame internet fan that I talk about. Here's what we were thoughtful with you guys before we move on. I just kept thinking to myself that like Jaden played with a lot of wet ball, a lot of wet footballs over the years, coming from Hawaii. You just have to imagine he's not dunking a ball in a bucket. He's got plenty of rainfall in Hawaii, and he's got big hands. So I don't think that it should be an issue for him throwing in the rain. I really don't. I'm circling back to Jacoby Lane. He's playing in the games, you guys. Someone tell me he looks like Jacoby Lane. How often does Jacoby Lane drop a ball like he did on that end zone? There's like 1 in 100 times he could drop it, but he dropped 2 crucial third downs. Another one we had to settle for a field goal. Do we get a touchdown? Who knows? But that changed the complexion of the game. Dropping a ball in the red zone, third down, we end up kicking a field goal, and then the time I'm talking about, the goal line, he drops that ball at the goal line. Touchdown there, it's the complexion of the game. It's a 1-score game down the stretch. I know ifs and buts and all that stuff, but it'd be good to see him coming back healthy, because we do definitely need. I think that's been the issue, as much as we talked about the fact that Tanook Hines stepped up, the fact that the tight ends are playing so well, and obviously Makai's Makai. We need Jacoby back. We need him at 100%.
No question about it, Tim. And he's not 100% to your point. And I also think it's sort of the last step in his evolution to be the total package at the next level, is dealing with some of these bump and run smaller corners and the physicality. And you're sort of, it's sometimes hard to sort of shake them off and then kind of be ready. Who else had a little bit of that challenge earlier in their career, where the comp was Jarrett, if you remember. When we went up to Arkansas that booty year, 5'9" corners are giving Jarrett a little bit of a hard time. Just that physicality, can be challenging sometimes, because they're so long and lean that sometimes getting that leverage isn't trivial always. And so, you're focused on kind of breaking the leverage, and then sometimes the hands come up late and the ball slips out. So I think it's a combination of Lane, needing to get to 100%. But I also think that's that last step in his game to be a totally complete receiver, kind of at that next level.
Yeah. Fully agree. Absolutely agree. And thank you, Trojan Dale, again with guys. I'm terrible at promoting this channel, so I appreciate you guys reminding me. Guys, please hit that like button. It really does. And subscribe if you're not subscribed. We're on a tear, Jamal. We're like well over 200 for the month, new subscriptions. So
I mean, it's a heater. It's a heater right now.
We appreciate the support that we are getting from all of you guys. So thank you all for being here. And if you could, we're here, we're talking. We told you we'll be here for an hour talking. It doesn't cost you a penny. All we ask you guys to do is just hit that like button. It's free. It takes a second. Okay. And then good point here. Where did I see it? Jeff Rodriguez. Yeah, it's that shoulder. Shoulders are a weird injury. It's a weird joint, and it's sometimes get right. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get right in that shoulder. But we need him, guys. We need him, and I can't give you a fight on jokes. I know you're an Irish fan, but thank you for being here. Love it. Love the Irish. Listen, you guys feel free to call the whole year. I know you'll be rooting for the Trojans, because we're basically going to be your one really substantial win. So you guys need us to finish strong. I mean, listen, if FC can get up there and steal one in Eugene, and yes, I did say steal one. God, I won't say that. I can't say the name of the team, but they have to win that game, because we win that game, guys. And I'm going to say the P word. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm the whole year. That's how big that this Illinois loss was, though.
Yeah,
the Illinois loss was losing the way they did, a last-second field goal, and the way the theme we've had, the defense just can't get that stop either at home or on the road. It seems like you got to come up with that one stop, like at Penn State. You come to the stop, big win at home. That's your signature win.
No, Tim, it's a great point, because just scenario this out. We'll do it together here. We beat Oregon, assuming everything else goes to chalk the rest of the way. You're 8-1 in the Big Ten. and 8-1, and Oregon's going to have 2 conference losses. So SC is going to finish 3rd in the Big Ten. It'll probably be Ohio State undefeated in the regular season, Indiana undefeated in the regular season. They don't play each other, and if you look at the rest of their schedule, they've got an inside track there. There is no way on planet Earth, or any other planet for that matter, that the 3rd best team in the Big Ten does not get a playoff berth. So it is very much still in USC's control and destiny to be able to make the playoff. On the flip side, why that Illinois loss was so significant? Because if you lose to Oregon, now you're sitting at 7-2 in the Big Ten. Ohio State, Indiana are still going to be undefeated. Oregon probably finishes 8-1. Now you slide to 4th, but who's tied with you? There's a world right now where Illinois can go 7-2. And then because of the tiebreaker, now you're down to 5th. And depending on how the tiebreak scenarios are, there may be a couple teams at 7-2. So the difference, that Illinois game,
maybe Northwestern,
the between being 3rd in the Big Ten versus being potentially 5th in the Big Ten. And if you're 4th or 5th in the Big Ten this particular year, especially when there's questions like who's the 4th best team in the Big Ten, there's questions about the depth of the conference, and you look at the rest of the schedule, it's not doing us any favors that Michigan State has not won a conference game yet. Purdue hasn't won a conference game yet. You got 2 non-Power 4 teams. The one win right now is Michigan. I think Nebraska, is actually going to lose to both LA teams. Tim, I'm sort of calling it there. I think Nebraska is more like a 7-5 team this year. So if you're 9-3 and 7-2 in the conference, but the only resume game is the Michigan game, it's just such a wide chasm between 9-3 and 10-2.
Yeah, that loss. That's why I didn't want to give that loss. Maybe that was just my hopeful thinking, because what you just said is what I've been thinking, and I didn't know how the Big Ten was going to play out. I just knew that a 10-2 Big Ten team is going to the playoffs.
Oh,
you're going to be a top 12 team for sure at 10-2 in the Big Ten. Okay, hi Joey. Let me bring Joey on here. Oh, how's that happen? That's interesting. Give me 1 second. How about that? There we go. How's it going, Joey?
Good. Well, I mean, it's been better. I'm having to call in for therapy right now. So been listening to everything you guys are saying and agree with so much of it. My question is, I'm just kind of looking at Riley's tenure from like 100,000 feet up, and when do you think we start to get to the point of no return? Because he comes here, he's fired every coach that he brought, okay, except for one. He's squandered amazing talent with like Caleb. Yes, he had to rebuild the program. He chooses not to, and God only knows, chooses not to recruit local talent. We're paying for that now. We had to go pay a guy $1 million a year in Chad Bowden for, and I don't know, to convince him to do what everybody with a brain cell knows you need to do is when you're in one of the best football recruiting beds in the nation. You have to recruit local talent. He fires Alice Grinch. Alice Grinch is the 14th best defense in the nation right now at UCF. Our defense is worse than UCLA's right now. And then we have so many things with the play calling at UCLA in 2024, now running the ball on the goal line. At UW, going into #1 pass defense in the nation, we throw it 35, 40 times, don't even run it in the second half, of the 4th and shorts. I mean, when do we get to the point where we just say, this is just not going to work? And who knows for what reason? If it's arrogance, it's pride. I mean, he pretty much called all of us out, saying that we have untrained eyes. He called us all idiots. It's like, so what point do we get as fans where we say, hey, we're trying to stay positive, where we just say, listen, you're the CEO of a Fortune 100 company here. You don't get to learn on the job here. Okay. The Nick Sabans, they cut their teeth at Michigan State, and then they went to LSU, and they maybe had to tweak some things when he first got there, and they got to Alabama, and he did his thing. Pete did all that stuff beforehand at, in the different NFL spots. But like, when do we just say, like, this is just not, it's just not working? Because, he gets on there and he's talking about gap control. Dude, it's freaking week 7 and your linebackers don't know where the hell they are. It's like, when is enough? And we just say, man, you're just not that good. You are exactly who you were when you got your ass handed to you by LSU in the playoff. Giving up 60 points to Georgia in the Rose Bowl, all those teams. And
that was overtime. Hey, Joey, you're on a roll, but let's keep it accurate though. That was overtime. But go ahead.
Joey's on fire right now.
You're on fire. I'm letting it go, but we got to be somewhat keep it clean.
Points.
Yeah.
I mean, he does. I mean, think about what he said coming into this year. He's like, oh, I realized I got to screw up my rotation on my wide receivers, because he wasn't putting the best players on the field clearly last year when it came to having Lemon, having Lane on the field. Deuce was, and then I don't know what happened to Branch last year. And so it's like, how long do we have to sit here and talk about this, made up growth? Because it's a new thing. Well, not really a new thing. It's the same thing, but it just looks a little different every year, every week. And so I just love to get your opinion on that.
My opinion is that's amazing. And this has been some good therapy for me just now, because I don't know if you caught Monday, but I got called out by a member of the media that I do respect. Don't completely always agree with him, but I respect him. He knows ball. And he's like, so man, Tim, when are you going to hold Riley accountable? What do you mean? He's like, don't you watch your show? I'm like, damn, that's hard. I can't argue with anything you just said. There's really no way, Joey, that I could sit here and tell you you're wrong on any of the comments you made, except for you, again, the 50 points to Georgia. That was that was overtime. But I mean, it's year 4 and he's made his mistakes. I think that Riley could do himself some favors, but coaches don't really do that. I mean, if he had been a little more mea culpa about the whole Grinch thing, but he is like, what, a godfather to one of his kids. I mean, that was just like a whole sticky situation, that whole part of it. There were a number of mistakes made. You talked about the talent here in Southern California. We saw it. On the other side, KVA, Kingston Villamuasa, who went to local St. John Bosco linebacker over at Notre Dame, really could be using him right about now. I'm telling you. But where is it? Sorry, I'm gonna give them credit because they were in the chat. They kind of said that. Here you go, right here. Peter has it. I mean, he basically said, "Look, that team. People remember Chad Bowden's only been here for less than a year now." And I'll throw one more thing at you because this is therapy, and I'm just trying to play the counterpoint. I don't want to get any bootlicker comments or whatever. I'm just gonna say that it's still early, and I feel you. And the way USC is losing, it feels Grinch-esque. It feels like they're just getting gashed. And I have to say though that the offense, I'm not making excuses. I hope you'll give me this one. Losing 2 starting offensive linemen and 2 running backs and say, hey, we want a better run game. Why did you only run for 63 yards? How many programs? What is Notre Dame gonna look like if they lose both Price and Love and their best lineman and their center? They did lose their center already. But I mean, that level of loss, and then say, hey, how come you guys only ran for 63 yards? I mean, well, maybe because that is substantial behind the 8-ball situation. But for year 4, the fact that we don't have Jamal, we don't have more signature wins, how it's just been this team just finds a way to lose these close games. It's why the fan base is up in arms, because you bring them to that point and then you just slam them to the ground. Yep. And you do that enough times. And I'll tell you guys this as a content creator, and Jamal and all the other content creators out there, because I know some of you guys are watching, we even their 7-5 season, fans are just going to check out. I mean, God bless all you guys for being here still. It's late for some of you guys. You got 72 people on here. And by the way, hit that like button if you're there. But thank God for you fans out there. You guys are diehard fans, because a lot of the fans have already checked out, guys. All those bandwagon guys. Oh wait, we're not top 25. I'm out of here. It's going to be really tough sledding. I know they want to have games like the Michigan State game where we pack the Coliseum. You're not going to have that if we have another 7-5. It's going to that will be a catastrophic level, Jamal. There is a world, Jamal, right? The SC loses to Nebraska on the road in Lincoln, and then you have to win at win at Eugene, and you drop that game, and then you're really then you're going and saying, if we lose one more game, we're at 7-5 again.
Yeah. No, Joey, I really appreciate the question, and just how you laid it out was exceptional. So thank you for joining us, number one, and for such insightful commentary. I'll say things kind of historically, and then I'll talk about it this year. Year 4 is very significant because, Tim, I don't know if you recall, you and I had this conversation last year. Ryan and I certainly had this conversation last year. If you look at the number of coaches that won national championships since 2000. There's 17 coaches that won national championships since 2000 in college football. 12 of them won the national championship within 4 years. The 2 others played for the national championship, Ryan Day and Kirby Smart, in year 2. So that's 14 of the 17 guys, okay, either played for in the final or won the national championship within 4 years since the year 2000, essentially the BCS college football playoff era. The only 3 exceptions to that rule, one was Mac Brown, and we can argue, should he have even won a national championship given how that game went? So that's number 1. Number 2 is Dabo Swinney at Clemson. But let's be honest, pre-Dabo Swinney and even now, Clemson and USC are not the same brand, okay? Clemson is not a blue blood, okay? So we can't that's not really a fair comparison. And the third is Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. And frankly, Harbaugh's sort of Michigan tenure, I'm sorry, I cannot look at that completely legitimately with everything that went around the sign stealing and just how high that correlation was of when they were stealing signs and their success. And then the moment they didn't steal signs, they didn't have any success. So essentially, the vast majority of the time, if you're a head coach, whether it's CFP era, BCS era, 12-team, 4-team, if you know what you're doing, you're going to get this thing done within 4 years. And so the fact that we're in year 4 and we're still having the same conversations, it's absolutely alarming. Now, I will say this. If he goes 9-3, you win the games you're supposed to win, you lose the game in Eugene, doesn't really matter, I think, what happens in the bowl game. He's going to get 1 more year, just given everything else that's going around in the university. You got an interim president. No way interim president is going to have the guts to fire Lincoln Riley. It just, the dynamics don't really work. However, if you go, like I said, less than 9-3 for this schedule, and you go 8-4, I think it's very honest to have a conversation about it this year. But at the very least, if Lincoln Riley does not make the playoff by the end of year 5, the cement has hardened. You know what you have and whether this guy's good enough or not. Because I will say, let's look at our schedule this year. 2 non-Power 4 teams, Michigan State at home, at Purdue, home for Iowa, which is sort of an effort game, home for Northwestern, home for UCLA. There's 100 coaches in the country that can take this roster with that schedule and go 7-5. So to me, 9-3 is the baseline, really, of paying a guy $11 million. Because if you're going 8-4, when the absolute floor of your season is 7-5, guess what? You're not paying $11 million for 8 wins. You're paying $11 million for 1 win. And so that's really the context here. Anything less than 9-3, I think his seat should be really hot. And certainly if he gets to 9-3, if this is not a playoff team next year, we sort of know our answer.
Quick question for you, though. How many of those coaches that won in the first 4 years followed Clay Helton? Can you give me that number? Okay, no, I get you. No, solid point. Really solid point. Sorry, Jamal. Really good points. But
fair tip. Touche.
Yeah, but
you know?
Well, because I do look at this like I mean, Ryan Day didn't exactly walk into the situation. You know, Kirby Smart did not walk into the same situation that you had here at USC. So I mean, I do get it. There's some pull, give and take. Has Lincoln Riley underachieved? I would hope he would agree with everybody that I don't think when he took this job he saw himself in year 4 needing to win out the last 5 games to get into the playoffs. I just don't think that's what he probably foresaw coming into this thing. I don't think that he would have seen 2, just north of 500 seasons like we've seen. I think it's been a significant disappointment. We knew it would be some rough sledding. We knew that year 1 was a mirage. I mean, that was smoke and mirrors because the cupboard was bare. That was for sure. And so you get a pass for 2023. But like when are these close losses going to start turning into close wins? Because that's what USC needs. That's where USC needs to be right now. Am I upset that we're not, that we're not in the top 5? I am, but at the same time, I would have been happy with we should have beat one of these 2 teams.
Yeah. And Tim, the last thing I'll say, and Joey, anything you want to close it out, because again, really appreciate the question. I think all we're saying here, Tim, is making a playoff appearance by the end of year 5.
It's a low bar now.
You know, I mean, it's a low bar. We're talking about a top 12 finish.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk into the Coliseum, all you see is Natties and Heismans and Rose Bowls and conference championships. All we're asking for is a top 12 finish. You know, if he can't get a top 12 finish by the end of year 5, what are we doing here?
Yeah, we lost Joey, but Joey, thank you. Great call. I mean, really great call. All the calls.
Absolutely.
Great calls tonight. I've been a little all over the place. I didn't write them down. I apologize. I really do like to give you guys recognition. And since I can't remember everybody, I'm not going to even try to do it. But great calls tonight, you guys. Remember, every Monday and Tuesday, we might be moving. This is a heads up. Not that we're ever on time anyway, but we're probably gonna be moving this thing up to moving it back to 7:30 possibly for next Monday during the bye week. As I really suggest you guys check that one, because this gonna be fun. We should get some news. I think we'll have some updates on injury report, I'm sure, from practice. Ryan's been going to all the practices, so we'll get some news on who's healthy, who's not. But Jamal, it's got to change, because the defense, it was year 2 under Danton Lynn. The athletes are, we have to admit that the players, here's one thing though, I got to throw it back. Sorry, before we get out of here. I don't think people understand what we're missing. Greedy Vance last year was one of the most underrated players. It just kind of quietly did his job and allowed that nickel position has been a problem. You know, filling in the slot corner for this team has been really a difficult thing. It's made them kind of change up what we do. And that was huge. That can't be understated at all. I mean,
no question about it, Tim. I mean, it started with the cornerback play. I mean, if Ramsey gets to play in position, I mean, Ramsey, Fitzgerald, we're feeling really good about the back end there. It's been the cornerback play has really sort of put us on our heels in terms of overcompensating for certain matchups. I mean, you know, we all saw that stat where Gentry lined up as nickel corner, 28 snaps against Michigan. I mean, it speaks to the versatility of Gentry and how special he is. But I mean, that's not a recipe for success long term. That's kind of the situation that we've been put in. But to your point, right? I mean, everyone around the country is dealing with different things, and unfortunately, the talent evaluation in that secondary room over this past offseason may have missed the mark.
We were out here, but really quickly, Dale, thank you so much. Fight on. Thanks for calling in. Again, thanks for the support, and thanks for the $10 super chat. Fight on. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You don't got to thank us. Again, I want to hear you guys' calls. You know you're out there. You guys get off your rear ends, pick up the phone. I have heard you. I know a lot of people said I've had people tell me I don't call in because I'm on my phone and then I can't listen to the show. So I've been dropping the last couple of shows. If you haven't noticed, I've been dropping the StreamYard link as well. So you can get in that way. So you can still listen and be on StreamYard. When you're in StreamYard, you can hear the whole show. So make sure you guys are tuning in. Ryan will be going live tomorrow at 12 o'clock, like he's been doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I don't know, we teased this last time, Jamal. I don't know if everyone's schedule is, but possibly on Saturday we might go live for one of the games. Is Nebraska? Who's
Nebraska Northwestern, baby.
All right,
maybe we go post game for that.
Maybe we do a little post game talk about the Nebraska game. How about that? Get ready for that big matchup in Lincoln. Well, we did it. We got another one in the books. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to all the callers. You guys are the stars of shows. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe, hit that like button. We are on, like you said, we're on a heater, man. Our subscriber count is flying through the roof, and that's all in part to you guys, the listeners. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. So for Jamal, I'm Tim, and we'll see you guys next Monday.
Thanks, everybody.